Welcome to the show, Cordelia. Thank you so much for being with us. How are you doing?
Thanks so much for having me, Simon. I'm feeling really well today. Good time of the year. Days are getting longer, more sun. I'm happy.
Yeah, we were just having a little bit of a chat about how excited we are that spring is coming and how it's such a transformative time for everybody. And yeah, once we can start seeing those flowers blooming and more birds in the sky, it just brings an air of happiness around for everybody, I think.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's just jump straight in. Why don't you tell us about yourself, your story into becoming a health practitioner and a teacher?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I'm a bit of a standard story in the sense of what pulled me to holistic health was my own personal needs initially. I am someone who suffered from debilitating gut issues my entire life. Was my elementary years, junior high and senior high were punctuated with ongoing stomach issues, digestive issues. And in hindsight, I would have out of control nosebleeds. I would have, strep throat 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. All of these markers indicative of a completely overwhelmed immune system, particularly with food sensitivities and issues. However, the mainstream medical system was always looking for something bigger, something really dysfunctional. Thankfully, they never found it. But it wasn't actually until I moved to the UK when I was 20 where I had a bit of a flare up and was not feeling good. And for the very first time in my entire life, a doctor said, "What are you eating?" And he specifically called out wheat. And I remember in my head, and I won't say the exact words, but I was just thinking, this guy's off his rocker. Like I have been going to doctors. At that point, I was 20. So, 12, 15 years. I'd been in and out of doctors' offices and all the rest of it. But I felt so terrible. I was so desperate to feel better. I was like, okay, wheat. I guess that means I'm not going to be eating any bread or pasta for a while. So I cut that out. I said, okay, I'll cut it out for a month. And about 2 weeks in, I couldn't believe it was like this veil was being lifted off of my head. And I actually had clarity to think. I could control my emotions. I didn't have to have an afternoon nap. I could sleep. So many things that I had just accepted as normal because they were normal for me just started to disappear. And some things, it took a little bit longer because I find we're very critical of things if they're not going the way that we want. But when we start to put the right inputs in and we start to change and feel better, we're not always so cognizant of the improvements unless we have maybe a journal or somebody's, points things out to us. So I was aware of a lot of things, but there was a lot of things that it took family and friends when I moved back to Canada to say, wow,
Yeah,
what's
that's
going on?
that's crazy. So, what type of doctor was this in the UK? Because that's really, I feel, I've not lived there in a long time, but I feel like that's a really unusual place for a doctor's mind to go when talking about those types of issues. So, like, tell us about this doctor.
I just went to a regular doctor. My mom's from Britain, so I have dual citizenship. And so I was like, I need to go to a doctor. I just went to a doctor. So I just went to the local doctor that was close to me. I was in Maidstone, Kent, living there. And this was not a functional medicine doctor. This is not a naturopathic doctor. This was just a doctor that I happened to end up in his office and have this experience with. So nothing special about it other than the words that he said.
That's just amazing that you found that doctor, because I think if you got stuck with somebody else, then maybe you would have just got a prescription or the
Well,
diet.
and
The
that was my
diet, yeah.
experience in Canada, right? So I'm like, I don't know how I got this guy, but he pushed me onto a trajectory that I wasn't even aware of at that time. But
That's
then,
wonderful. So you cut out wheat for a couple of weeks, you start to feel a heck of a lot better, and then what happens from there?
well, to be honest, I mean, I didn't really take it seriously. I was 20. I was 21 and I was
That's
living in the UK and I was like, this is great, freedom. Did not make the connection to at all. It would be years later that I would make the connection to sort of like wheat and gluten and all the areas that it's in and, my gut issues and actually determining and via an elimination diet and food sensitivity testings, what the foods were. But so it was like, the UK absolutely was that initial first step. And then it wasn't until about 3 or 4 years later when I came back to Canada where I was like, okay, there's more. There's things still happening. I'd improved a lot and I got very comfortable where I was. but I had clearly not taken it, upstream, so to speak, to really sort of address the root issues. And that's where I started to work with a naturopath and have these other conversations, because I didn't even know what holistic health was. I mean, I'm like a lot of Canadians. You are raised to, just trust the medical system, trust your doctor, tell your doctor what's wrong, and the doctor is going to know everything. And that was my experience. So I had no reason to question it until I moved to the UK and was like, wait a minute, maybe there's other professionals out there who can understand what I'm experiencing and can help me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think that, yeah, so many people I think around the world trust the, allopathic side of medicine, that you are so fortunate to find that practitioner who just thought about, just asking you the simple question about, what do you eat? And
Yeah,
just sparking the idea of like maybe different things that you're consuming are affecting your gut. And hopefully that in medical training now, they're talking a lot more about like the gut brain axis and how, like, our gut can affect our brain affects our gut, and they're always communicating, and the symptoms that might seem distant to the origin of them,
absolutely.
it's all kind of related, and we're talking about referred issues. So that's awesome that you found that. And yeah, it's quite remarkable, because there's not a whole lot of practitioners out there in the conventional system that are going towards something like that. So that's great
No,
that put you on that path.
yeah.
So what's the link now from where you're at in this story to becoming a holistic nutritionist and a teacher?
Yeah, so when I got back to Canada, I got back into, I was an event manager. So I was working for not-for-profit organizations, creating events and having so much fun doing that. I was still focusing on my health and working with my health team. And I had to, because I was reminded when I got back to Canada the limitations of some of the doctors we have, because at that time, the doctor that I had didn't believe in food sensitivities or food allergies. So again, it was just that reminder to be like, okay, you're very helpful for some aspects, but I need to have another professional. And it was at that time where, this is where that community piece kind of ties in. Friends and family were noticing how I was changing physically. And then just in terms of character, I had more energy and I was just, doing more. And I was acutely aware that what worked for me may work for them, but it may not. And so all of a sudden I had this urge to be educated in a way that was more general, that would allow me to speak to people and their unique experience, because that was sort of the dawn when I lived in the UK, was that we are all so different. Again, there's going to be these fundamental, these foundational pieces that everybody can benefit from, but again, with that much the same, there's going to be that much different. So that kind of prompted me to be like, okay, what is it? What do I even want to be? And then people were like, oh, a dietitian, and started to learn about that. And I was like, hey, that's really cool. That's really cool. Didn't resonate with me, didn't have that pull for that. And then all of a sudden I just was looking through a magazine in Calgary, and it said, oh, natural nutrition program. And I was like, what? And that was it. I basically saw that article, applied, took school, and then kind of and at this point, I was just turning 30. So I thought I was wild to change careers at that point. I just turned 40. So now I'm like, oh, how funny you are when you're in your 20s and 30s, thinking it's like the
Yeah,
end of the world to change. So went back to school, did that, and then really kind of just really wanted to focus on supporting women in particular with gut issues. And that's sort of grown more now into hormonal issues as well. But I just wanted to help people, and I just wanted to share my story, because I thought my situation is not unique in the sense of what I've experienced, but what is unique to me is the sense of I'm not on the medications. And I think that if I had not recruited my own health team, my life trajectory could have taken a very different path, and it would not have been healthy. And it would not, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be vital. I wouldn't be feeling great. I wouldn't know how to feel empowered about my health. So it was that
yeah,
sort of education and that start that I just thought, we need to talk about this. And that's where that's what gets so many people into holistic healthcare, where it's nutrition or whatever it may be. It's a lot of this is a personal need for health that they cannot find anywhere else. So that was my
absolutely.
goal, big
Yeah,
time.
that's really cool. I think I just want to ask you a question in regards to when you were, you looked at dietitians, and then you saw this article for becoming a natural practitioner.
Yeah.
Why were you kind of like not really connected with the dietitian side of things? Because you naturally think that, like, if you want to get into uh, diet and health and helping people, with what they eat to make them feel better, you think automatically a lot of people would just think, a dietitian would be kind of like the best role for that. So why did you go to something that's a little bit, a little bit out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I know that obviously food is important, and I know that movement is important, and I've always known that. But for me, some of the early practitioners that I worked with, some of the exercises that they gave me were all about visualization. And so from the get go, I had this practice where when I was in pain or when I was experiencing anything, I would put a lot of time into imagining my organs, obviously my stomach and my digestive system healing and being well. And that really got me through some really difficult periods. And I couldn't find anything in speaking to dietitians or looking at various programs that really spoke to the psycho-spiritual aspect. And that's a very important part of my life. So I thought that, yep, yes, it's movement. Yes, it's nutrition. But for me, holistic nutrition is a trifecta. And it does incorporate those psycho-spiritual aspects. And that can look different for everybody. But to not include that didn't feel appropriate. Now we see dietitians incorporating that in their own personal practice more today. But I really wanted a school that focused on that as well and wasn't just so, okay, we're science-based. Yes, as holistic nutritionists, we absolutely are science-based. However, there's a part of healing and health that can't always be quantified. And to ignore that, I think, is to ignore the potential for health. And so that doesn't align with my beliefs and values at all.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I think a big draw for me as well with holistic nutrition was the fact that you're not just looking at somebody's symptoms and you're
Yeah.
not just trying to assess those immediately. Like, you're asking very big questions about somebody's sleep, their stress levels, their work,
Yes.
how they were born, how long they breastfed for, like how often do you get sick. Like these are incredibly important questions that paint much more of an overall picture than
Yeah.
I have stomach pain and I have diarrhea.
Yeah.
Like that's not there's not enough value in that in regards to actually helping somebody really understand what it is that they're experiencing and what they can
Yeah.
do to start, making changes to start healing and become better. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that, and you're right in regards to like there are dietitians that are adopting and changing to more of a holistic approach, and that's most likely due
Yeah.
to the fact that all these new schools and new universities are covering health and wellness in a much more broader scope, and wonderful practitioners like yourself, yeah, it's like it's pushing the let's call it the conventional side of nutrition to
Yeah.
be better
Yeah.
and to look at the whole person rather than you have a protocol for diarrhea and stomach pain, and
Yeah.
that's the same thing for everybody.
Yeah.
We know that doesn't work. We know that that's kind of a useless system. So that's wonderful that yeah, that both areas have got a good part to play in that. I love that.
Yeah. And I didn't want to be a part of this reductionist healthcare where, tell me about one thing you're feeling. Like that to me, like that has not at all helped me. And I know that that does not help. So this is where we have these conversations to be like, I want to learn about the whole you and not just the you today, but tell me a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about your past. And for people that are new to holistic nutrition or a holistic practitioner, that's wild. That conversation, they're like, what? We're going to talk about me for an hour, maybe 2 hours. That whole experience is crazy to them. But you're talking to someone in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who's never talked about their health for that long to their healthcare practitioner. That is what is wrong to me. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm just like, absolutely not. Pick one symptom. Like, what? No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Not
When
here
you
for it.
when you're able to have an hour or 2 hour session with somebody, it turns into very much a bit of a therapy session, and that therapy is a massive part of the process because you're actually connecting and aligning and forming this like therapeutic relationship with a practitioner, and that's going to go such a long way to making the changes that you need to help. I'm not going to generalize dietitians here, but like I met a
Oh,
few of them in the UK, but they all seem to be really unhealthy, kind of unhappy people.
yeah.
And that's obviously doesn't not suggesting that's everybody, but I know a lot of holistic nutritionists and naturopaths, and people in the kind of the holistic realm, and they're all like super energized and super happy. And I honestly think that a big part of that comes from their journey to get to where they are. They went through
Yeah.
personal issues, and they educated themselves to help themselves, and then now they've got this wonderful ability to connect with people who are going through something very, very similar. So you've already got that like understanding and that that care that you can have for somebody, and that's a really great way to connect really early on
Yeah.
in the session. So yeah, that's a really important aspect as well.
Well, yeah, and we're creating relationships, right? I mean, if you want to assist somebody in terms of healing or guiding their body back to homeostasis, I mean, you need to understand them and know them, or else how is that person going to be engaged? I mean, and I don't blame them. I mean, I, for a large part, wasn't engaged in my health because I didn't know I had to be, and B, there was no conversation. It was one direction dialogue. And so with holistic nutritionists, like we encourage discussion. We want feedback because if we need to make any changes, how are we going to get that if we don't have that open line of communication? And to get that communication, we need to build that bedrock of trust, which cannot be rushed.
Yeah, and we absolutely have to create and establish that relationship early with a practitioner, that level of trust.
Yeah.
And I think in a 2 hour session, or a 90-minute intake, you can obtain that, because you might be seeing this person for 90 minutes every couple of weeks, but there's so much time in between those sessions, and they need to be invested, they need to be in it, and they need to kind of like want to work with you as a practitioner to make sure that when they're not with you, they're doing those things that they know that they need to do to create those changes. And yeah, it's very difficult to obtain a therapeutic alliance like that if you're not working with a like a holistic
Yeah,
mindset and really like getting to know that individual to create that relationship.
absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah.
Super. Let's move on to Pacific Rim College. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Is it just a nutrition school?
No, Pacific Rim College. Okay, so it's beautiful. It's got a great campus in Market Square in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. And it's like the alternative college, really. We've got holistic nutrition, there's phytotherapy, so that's herbal medicine. We've got the Doctor of Traditional Chinese Medicine program, acupuncture program. We've now got the permaculture program. There's the holistic doula. So there's sort of, anything holistic, chances are, you can come to Pacific Rim College, whether it's be a certificate or diploma, there's weekend workshop. There's a lot of different ways to sort of dip your toes into the holistic healthcare that, you don't have to be a practitioner necessarily. Like, of course, make and we have so many great practitioners, but even if you're just looking for a little bit more knowledge for yourself, I mean, this is where the certificates and the weekend workshops are a lot more accessible, and they've never been more accessible now because we're online. So anybody can access this.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I I moved from when I so a little bit of my backstory. So I went to Pacific Rim College. I did the 3 year holistic nutrition diploma, as you know, Cordelia,
Yes.
and I was living in Sweden at the time, and I just kind of got into health and nutrition. I did a couple of online courses, and I got I applied my knowledge to myself. I got ridiculously healthy. I felt amazing. I was 27, and it was the best I ever felt in my whole life. So I'm like addicted to this learning now. Like, how can I like learn more, and how can I help people feel this good? Because this is a like birthright. Everyone should feel awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was fishing for a school, and I found I found a couple of schools in America, and I narrowed it down to one. But it was so difficult to get a visa there that
Oh,
it just kind of like didn't work. And the admissions person I was speaking to at this school in Colorado sent me this random website, and it had a bunch of schools like on it, and then bang in the middle was the PRC like logo, and I just clicked on that, and I went to the um, nutrition diploma and looked through like what you do during the 6 semesters, and it's so absurdly comprehensive, and it's just so yeah, you just cover so much in, well, 6 semesters. It's a long period of time, and you have the
yeah.
option to kind of fast track it through the summer. And the fact that you have to do, why don't you tell us a little about the clinic as well? We'll get more into the diploma of holistic nutrition, but tell us a little bit about the clinic at the
Yeah.
school, because anybody, if you're lucky enough to live in Victoria or visit there, you can go there and experience it.
Yes, the clinic, to be honest, I mean, there's so many aspects of the program that I love, but the clinic for sure it's right up there because there's no other program that allow, nutrition students to engage with individuals to apply what they're learning in the classroom. And to have the opportunity to learn something in a textbook and then see that and talk to somebody and have them come back and see improvements, that's incredible. Like it's so invaluable for the soon to be practitioner. It is a massive boon for the community because, again, holistic healthcare services can be prohibitive for many, many demographics. And the other important thing to me, Simon, is honestly, I don't really love the idea that if you go to holistic nutrition school, wherever that is, that you have to see people one-on-one. And so I think that we've lost a lot of great practitioners because they weren't aware of the variety of ways to support people. And so love clinic, love the experience. And I love also the opportunity that provides students after the 3-year completion of the program to go, loved it, learned it, know how to do it, don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's fair
Because
enough. Yeah.
there's just so many ways to support the industry, to support individuals and groups. And I don't want it to always be I'm an extrovert, or that's great, or what about I'm an introvert, I don't really like to talk to people, but is this the only way that I can make a living? I have to see people one-on-one. And it's like, no. Like there's so many ways to work and make a positive change where you don't ever have to talk to anybody. So
yeah,
so many
it's
benefits.
I had a really wonderful experience with clinic because there's obviously 3 levels to it. There's the
Yes.
what's the first level?
Observation.
Observation. Yeah, so you're in
Yep.
you're with your classmates, with the instructor, with the teacher, and then somebody comes in and they're looking to get some help with their health. And then
Yeah.
the next level will be supervised. So
Right.
the student will be taking the session with kind of everybody involved. Again,
Yeah.
it's like this holistic, everyone's kind of in the room and learning together. It's actually it can be quite intimidating at first, but it's actually a really wholesome educational experience.
Absolutely.
And then you have independent, where you've got people, you've got the students taking their own kind of clients and hopefully getting them back in to work with them progressively throughout the semester. Really amazing setup. And what I think that I learned from myself and watching other people around me grow through the 3 years through those different types of clinics was the fact that the experience and the confidence to be able to
Yes.
sit one-on-one and first of all know that a lot of information and you've got a lot of good information to share,
Mhm.
but being able to communicate that in a understanding and empathetic way is a skill. And like the biggest thing I learned from clinic was like learning how to listen,
Yeah.
to quiet my mind, quiet my body, sit there, be present and listen.
Yeah.
And that is without question the biggest superpower that I think any good natural health practitioner can have.
Yeah.
And that clinical setting most likely gives that skill and that superpower and that quality to everyone who passes through.
Absolutely, absolutely, because you're so right, Simon. I mean, even when you're in school, particularly, but even when you're done, you can find yourself in these moments of, I can't help you. I got to take this course. I got to take another course. I got to learn this and learn that. And it's like, no. Like, like you have so much knowledge when you're in school to help people, and having that opportunity to do that and see positive improvements. And like you said, sometimes when you're new and you're nervous, you want to fill space. There can't be a quiet moment. You just have to talk. And so really just kind of sitting back and just allowing, because you have to put yourself in the position of the person across from you who's coming to seek help. You might be talking to them in a way and about things that nobody has ever said to them before. So allow them to actually absorb that and digest that and just hold that space and then continue the conversation. And it just like school is the place that you can do that, and everybody is learning, and the expectations, just lower them. Your instructor's there always to support you, but just like, it's okay if you maybe ask the questions out of order, or maybe you are really chatty. Like this is the moment. Those are the opportunities where you can find that out about yourself and go, okay, you're right. I do get nervous, and then I just want to ramble on. Okay, I need to learn to count to 10 in my head
Sure.
and let
So
them speak
yeah,
first.
the clinic is wonderful, and obviously there's a clinic for nutrition, there's a clinic for phytotherapy, and there's a clinic
Yep,
for acupuncture as well, which is
that's right.
a
Yeah.
really wonderful thing. So yeah, if you are in the area, you should go check it out. I'd love to talk specifically about the nutrition program. So what makes
Yeah.
the diploma of holistic nutrition kind of stand out?
We got the longest program by a long shot in Canada. We've got a 3-year program. Like you said, we've got the 6 semesters. We cover everything from, we've got a little bit of influence from Ayurveda. We've got a bit of the influence from the Western herbal medicine, the Oriental medicine. We've got a big biomedical section, which, focuses on the anatomy and physiology, the biology, those sorts of aspects. We've got a big core nutrition component, which talks about, nutrient diet therapeutics, toxicity of foods. We've got the clinic. We've got the professional development area as well, which a lot of holistic courses, I feel like at the end of the program, you get thrown in a little bit of business information, but there's not really any sort of structure or flow to it. So we've really taken consideration into making sure we've got professional development courses that our students can utilize and actually turn into a thriving career afterwards, whether that's working for themselves or working for somebody else. You're going to have tools to, communicate yourself, because if you got all this great education, but you don't know how to, land a position somewhere, I mean, it's going to be, it's going to be wasted, right? So there's just so many different ways. And then we've got the weekend workshops, and then students have to take electives. And now we've got this beautiful component as well where we can draw on, which is Pacific Rim College Online. So now we've got weekend workshops where students, because when you went to school, Simon, if you wanted electives, you have to take a weekend workshop in person. That was the only option. So now we've got nutrition electives like in the program itself that are, typically 15 hours. And then we've got the weekend workshops. We're changing those up a bit now with Zoom. So instead of, 2-day workshops, we're seeing if the content matter can be divided into one day and then scattering another day somewhere else throughout the semester, because again, people are spending a lot of time online. So how can we kind of change things up a little bit? And then the PRCO, we've got another area as well where people continue to take their, elective credits and then have lifetime access to that. So it's the length of the program, it's the hours of the program, and it's also all of the different blocks that I just mentioned of education. So yes, obviously nutrition is the core piece, but there's so many other influences that sort of really make it just a complete program.
You also have some pretty special teachers there as well, right?
We have amazing instructors. Are you kidding me? I mean, no, we have got some of the best professionals. I mean, just some of the best people teaching, in clinic, in our classes, who have so much life experience, so much personal experience, so much educational experience, and they come willing to share and answer questions and just be themselves. And it's wonderful. Like our instructors, I mean, I learned from our instructors, I learned from our students. It's just this boom, 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 just learning, sharing. It's a very, very cool, culture to be a part of.
What do you think is the benefit for, no, we're talking about how comprehensive the program is, and it dives into Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Western medicine. What do you think the benefit of learning those different modalities is?
Well, I think the first benefit is it's really interesting to see how students sort of gravitate towards different things, which can allow them to take additional courses after the program if they want to sort of niche down, so to speak. And then really the other thing is as well is that, the clients that they're going to be seeing, at the college when they're in their academic career, and then likewise when they're in their own career, these individuals are going to have their own experiences with health. So if you can be well versed in, oh, okay, this person's talking about doshas. Okay, I know Ayurveda. Not an Ayurvedic practitioner necessarily, but I understand some of the philosophies and prior learnings that you've been exposed to. So I can incorporate some of that language into our conversations. So I can demonstrate to you that I see what you've done, I see where you're coming from, and we can expand on that together. So whether that be Ayurveda or the herbal medicine, because as you know, herbal medicine and nutrition, they're besties. And then again, the Oriental medicine. So for me, it's those influences, again, particularly with all of them really, they're ancient. I mean, they've been around for, thousands of years. And so not only is it excellent for the student to sort of have an awareness of why we see things today or where they come from, but also understanding that the people that they're going to work with also have these influences. And it's not about, just exclusively utilizing one and disregarding everything else. When it comes to health for each of us, we really can cherry pick. I like a little bit of this component of Ayurveda. I like Western herbs. I'm going to use some herbal medicine. Oh, I love nutrition. I'm really going to use a lot of this, right? So I think it just really opens up the menu of health and the options that are available, as opposed to just saying, this is one path, this is the path, that's all that's available. It's like, whoa. Actually, there's so much available. So it's about having a practitioner that has that awareness of what's out there, can really sort of support that client and saying, okay, this is where we're going to go. And if this is what you're interested in, I'm going to make sure that you have resources to continue to learn about that. So,
Yeah, I really think the length of the course and how comprehensive it is, and how diverse, and how it dives into herbs, nutrition,
yeah,
Chinese medicine. I think that really serves the student so well, because they're going to go into school day one with a kind of idea in their mind of like what they're going to do, and it's going to change 50 times by the
yeah,
time they're done.
oh yeah,
And by being exposed to all these wonderful different um, professors and practitioners, as well as different theories and different ways of looking at kind of the same thing, it really opens up opportunity for people to look within themselves and see what really resonates. And then they're able to create kind of a practice or a product or a service that is very much needed in our society, but it's also beautiful, ends up being beautifully unique to that individual. And if somebody finds that, they've got a fire within them for life.
yeah,
And I think that is one of the biggest things that people will obtain from even just attending like the certificate program for
oh yeah.
holistic nutrition. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, because that's the certificate program in holistic nutrition is different from the diploma. So why don't you tell us about that?
That's right. Yeah. So as we said, like the diploma program is 3 years, 6 semesters. The holistic nutrition certificate program, so HNCP for short, that's 1 semester essentially. So it's a 4 month program, and it's not a course designed to make practitioners. It's really for general interest, for individuals who are looking to sort of, how can I bring more holistic nutrition into my life for my family? And it also serves a very important function as, if someone's potentially looking to take the diploma program, this is a really great opportunity to take the certificate and see how you feel about the college, see how you feel about some of the instructors, see how you feel about some of the content before you commit to a 3 year program. And that's why we've got a lot of the core, well, we've got, some core courses that are embedded into the certificate program, so that once you complete that, if you choose to matriculate into the diploma program, you're not starting from square one. You're already going to have some credits, you're already going to have some courses under your belt, and then you can kind of ease into the program. So I'm a huge fan of the certificate program because, again, it's digestible. It gets information that people need right away. And then if you're looking at that course for the diploma, it just gives you a little bit of a taster before you commit. Because if you're like you, Simon, coming from another country, and we do have a lot of international students, it can be a little bit much, to commit to a 3 year program, and B, coming to Victoria. There's a lot of considerations for people. So I love to have, the latter approach, for lack of better words, where, dip your toe in, see how you feel, ask questions, and then you can kind of continue on from there if you feel so called.
Yeah, it's a really great stepping stone. I know multiple people that start with the certificate program, and then they end
Yeah.
up doing the holistic nutrition, and then they double that up with acupuncture, and then
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
then they chuck in phytotherapy, and they've been
Yeah.
in school for 7 years, but they
Yeah. Yeah. It's a slippery slope. It can happen fast.
yeah, but it's that type of energy, and it's an addicting place to be around, because it is such a wonderful environment. And yeah, I know more than 3 people that have done literally like every program at that school.
Yeah. Yeah. It's addictive.
Which is just that's just awesome. We spoke briefly about the kind of application of like Pacific Rim College online now. So
Yeah.
was that kind of in response to the last 12 months? Like how does that look now? Could I start school next semester and begin online?
Yeah, you could. Actually, so Pacific Rim College Online it's a separate entity from the college, and it was created, before, COVID and all that sort of stuff. And it was just really a way to sort of just harness this digital classroom and to reach more people. It obviously has certainly become so much more beneficial now, given the fact that we are, in virtual classrooms. But with the college right now, the only program that's able to be on site is acupuncture. So our herbal programs, as well as holistic nutrition, they're 100% virtual at the moment. And we're getting our sort of guidance from our provincial regulatory bodies. But right now, for sure, we know our summer semester is absolutely approved for international students. It's online, so anybody who's looking at potentially taking the course, like, the last year essentially has offered a bonus for people from around the world to sort of get involved, because it's not realistic for everybody who wants to learn this to move to Victoria. So it's been really interesting to witness the diversity of students in the program because of this opportunity right now.
And those online programs that you can jump
Yeah.
into now, is it live
Yes.
classroom? Yeah. Okay, cool. Because
Yes.
there's a lot of,
Great
yeah,
distinction. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're signing up for Pacific Rim College, instructor there, and you're going through the content, the PRCO, those are pre-recorded. So those are sort of lifetime access, go back to them again and again. But anything with Pacific Rim College right now, it's online and it's live. Nothing pre-recorded, nothing recorded.
wonderful. That's great. What's your what do you love most about the college?
Oh, I saw that was one of your questions and I was like, just one thing.
Yeah, one thing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the ease of conversations that I can engage in that doesn't happen anywhere else. I can start talking about epigenetics and intergenerational trauma and how this discharges the nervous system and how this affects the gut. And people are like, yeah, da, 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 da. I can't talk about that. If I brought that up at the dinner table, they'd be like, epi what? Right, you're talking about gut stuff again. I know that, Cordelia, but what exactly are you talking about this time? So it's just those conversations where you can just, I read this. Oh my gosh, did you see this? And all of a sudden you're just like, you just have this hive mind being exposed to things that otherwise you wouldn't, you stay focused, and then you have people that have different interests and you're like, that's really cool. That's really cool. So the conversations, and that's what I'm missing right now. I love the fact that we can be online, but I miss the energy and I miss the conversations and the hubbub that happens in the classrooms and the hallways. Yeah, it's the conversations. Absolutely. Students, instructors, faculty, everybody.
Yeah, finding your tribe is the best.
Yeah, yeah,
That's for
absolutely.
sure.
Couldn't agree more.
Can you tell us a couple of success stories of like students who have completed the 3-year diploma?
Yeah, honestly, I was pondering this question, and this sounds like a dean thing to say, but I think that every student who successfully completes the program is a success story, because regardless of whether they choose to continue that on with a profession or not, I know that they have profoundly impacted not only their health, but they will impact the health of those in their family and those immediately around them by the knowledge that they've been exposed to. To take it a little bit further, Simon, I think that what you're doing and the way that you're out there and what you're vocalizing, I think that gives all holistic nutritionists, including myself, something to look up to. And I'm also very interested in students who come to us from international communities where holistic nutrition, for lack of better words, doesn't really exist in the traditional sense. There is no professional organizations, there is no schools. So, when we have students come from Mexico and, other countries in South America, and they're learning this wisdom and they're taking that back and sort of incorporating that into a more traditional lens for their communities, I think that's incredibly exciting, because again, I just visualize these little drops of holistic nutritionists around the world, just getting into these communities where this knowledge is so needed, but is not accessible.
Absolutely, yeah. It's big congratulations to anyone that completes that program, because it's not easy
No,
and
because
it's
Simon,
challenging.
no, it's like you learn this, but I don't necessarily think every student understands how much of a personal reflection, like how much inner work you do simultaneously while you're in class. Like there is a lot of deep work that goes on for a lot of students in the program. So it's transformative on many levels.
Yeah, transformative is the right word, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Just to finish up, you've got your own nutrition practice. You've got a
Thank
beautiful little
you.
sign behind you there,
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Inspired Living Nutrition. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you offer people?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. So I'm all about supporting women with gut and hormonal health. So I do sort of one-on-one programs. Minimum length of time I like to work with women is 3 months, because again, Simon, you and I are really big on this sort of habitual transformation. There's a lot of information out there for nutrition. It's not just about, Googling what foods do I eat? I really, approach nutrition in the sense of what programming do you have? What habits do you have? Do they serve the goals that you have in your life and how you want to feel? And if not, let's kind of, take some of those out so that we can actually create space for change, instead of thinking this is how I am and now I've got to add all this on. let's discharge and remove what's not working to create space to build up. And again, this is where it's collaborative. So yeah, hormonal, gut health, women's health, that's really what I'm all about. And over the last year, my business has taken a little bit of a turn, just in the sense of I'm incorporating a lot more discussions with my clients about boundaries, because I'm a bit of a boundary Jedi. I'm really good at that. And also just this personal health advocacy, because I'm understanding and seeing more and more how my health journey it's mine, and I'm getting the support that I need. But I'm also seeing that women are not getting the support that they need because they're necessarily not as vocal as me. And again, I don't want, oh, you've got to be an extrovert, you've got to be vocal, to get the health that you need. Oh, if you're an introvert or don't ask questions, like, oh, forget it. Like, that to me is silly. So it's really trying to call in these women who need a little bit of support with their health, but also just, ensuring that they know the language and what personal advocacy is, and tapping into emotions. I'm now tapping into sort of like anger emotions with my clients, because there's a lot of anger around the health and the lack of support that they feel they should have got. So it's really, again, it's more conversational, but there's people are feeling a lot, they're feeling stressed out. So it's like, let's discharge that, let's process that, and then let's sort of focus on what we can do together. But if you don't address all the stress that's here, they're not going to be present enough to, do the protocol that you give them. So really just expanding to be just whatever someone needs, and not so this is the way it's going to be and this is how it is. It's like, okay, we're going to change things for every person. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're out there doing that, because I
Thank you.
know with your enthusiasm and your energy and your experience, you're going to help a lot of people. So that's great. How can people connect with you?
You know what? Honestly, just go to my website, inspiredlivingnutrition.com. You can pop on and get on my Instagram and stuff like that. But sort of like that's the hub. That's the main place where you can find me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Cordelia. I really appreciate it. And
Simon, I love talking to you. I think what you're doing is awesome. I'm a big fan, and I'm always going to watch what you're doing, because you're just making a really positive impact in the industry. So thank you.
thank you. That's awesome. For more information on anything we've spoken about in this episode, you can see the show notes. We'll make sure you can get connected with Cordelia. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. This is Truehope Cast, the official podcast for Truehope Canada. We'll see you next week.